Right now, your thumb is doing something it learned from a CIA program in 1953. You think TikTok hijacked your attention. It didn't invent the technique, it bought it. This is the story of how a Cold War mind control program became your phone. April 1953, Princeton University. Alan Dulles, the new director of the CIA, is giving a speech to alumni. He talks about a new kind of war. Not bullets, not borders. He calls it brain warfare. The Soviets, he says, have figured out how to control human thought. The Chinese have something similar. American POWs are coming back from Korea saying things they would never have said. The CIA has decided this is an emergency. 3 weeks later, a chemist named Sidney Gottlieb is given a budget, a team, and almost no oversight. The code name of the program is MK Ultra. The mission is on paper. You can read it now. They wanted to create, quote, a chemical material which causes a non-toxic aberrant mental state, the specific nature of which can be reasonably well predicted, end quote. Translation: they wanted to find a drug, a technique, anything that would let them rewrite a human mind on command. This is not conspiracy theory. This was Tuesday at the office. For the next 20 years, MK Ultra runs 149 subprojects, 80 universities, 7 prisons, hospitals, schools, mental institutions. None of the subjects know. LSD is dosed into the drinks of strangers in bars. The CIA wants to see what happens when someone has no idea what is hitting them. Frank Olson is one of those people. He is a scientist working with the program. They dose him at a retreat. A week later, he goes through the window of a hotel room in New York and dies on the pavement. That is one story. There are others. In Montreal, a psychiatrist named Ewan Cameron is taking CIA money to run experiments at McGill University. He calls it depatterning. The idea is simple and brutal. You take a patient. You put them in a drug-induced sleep for weeks. You give them electroshock, sometimes 30 times in a row. You play recorded messages on a loop, 16 hours a day for months. You break the personality down to nothing. Then you build it back the way you want it. Cameron writes papers about this in major medical journals. He is the president of the American Psychiatric Association. He is, by every official measure, a respected man. The patients come out unable to remember their own children. In a Kentucky prison, another doctor pays inmates in heroin to take experimental drugs for him. In a New York safe house, agents film themselves dosing sex workers with LSD through one-way mirrors. They call it Operation Midnight Climax. That is a real name in a real document. But out of all of it, all the drugs and shocks and tapes, one finding survives. The drugs are unreliable. The shocks are crude. What actually rewires a person, what really sticks, is something quieter. Repetition, reward, helplessness. 3 ingredients. That is the recipe MK Ultra discovers, and it works. By 1973, the program is in trouble. Watergate has cracked open the culture. Journalists are starting to ask questions. Richard Helms, the new CIA director, gives an order. Destroy everything. 20,000 documents go into the fire. Most of them are gone. But a clerical error saves a few boxes. Some files were stored at a different address than the rest, and the destruction order misses them. 2 years later, in 1975, a Senate committee called the Church Committee opens public hearings. Gottlieb testifies behind closed doors. He says he does not remember much. He says it probably was not, quote, a high payoff program, end quote. The country is told the experiments are over. The full transcripts of his testimony are not released until 2025. 50 years later, some of what he said has only just become public. The program ended. The findings did not go away. They went somewhere else. While the CIA was running MK Ultra, another scientist was doing very different work in a very different lab. His name was B.F. Skinner. He worked at Harvard. He put pigeons in boxes. The boxes had a small lever. The pigeon would peck the lever, and sometimes a food pellet would come out. Sometimes nothing. Skinner spent decades figuring out the rules of when reward arrives and how that timing changes behavior. He identified 4 different schedules. One of them was special. He called it variable ratio reinforcement. The reward comes after an unpredictable number of responses. You do not know if the next peck will pay off, or the one after that, or the one after that. You only know that eventually one of them will. This schedule, Skinner found, produces the highest response rate in every animal he ever tested. It is also the most resistant to giving up. Pigeons would peck for hours, days, with almost no rewards, and they would keep going. In 1957, Skinner published a book called Schedules of Reinforcement. In it, he writes, quote, "If the gambling establishment cannot persuade a patron to turn over money with no return, it may achieve the same effect by returning part of the patron's money on a variable ratio schedule." End quote. The slot machine industry was paying attention. By the 1980s, every casino in Las Vegas was running on Skinner's math. Variable rewards, near misses, loss disguised as a win, where lights flash and music plays even when you lose money. The machines were designed to keep people pulling the lever long after the reward was gone. This is the same thing MK Ultra discovered. Repetition, reward, helplessness. Now it had a name. Now it was patentable. 2007. The iPhone launches, 2010. Instagram. A photo grid that loads more posts the further you scroll. 2012. Pull to refresh. The same gesture you use on a slot machine. 2016. TikTok arrives. Infinite vertical feed. No completion signal, no stopping queue. Just the next video and the next and the next. The engineers who built these apps did not call it operant conditioning. They called it engagement. But in the design documents, in the books they read, in the labs they came from, the lineage is clear. Stanford had a research group called the Persuasive Technology Lab. It opened in 1998. The work coming out of it became the playbook for almost every major social platform. Notification cadence, reward variability, the exact placement of a red dot. Sean Parker, the first president of Facebook, said it out loud in a 2017 interview. Quote, "The thought process was, how do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible? We needed to give you a little dopamine hit every once in a while. It is a social validation feedback loop. We did it anyway." End quote. MK Ultra wanted to control 200 enemy soldiers. Your apps run the same playbook on 5 billion people, and it works better than the experiments ever did. Because you opted in. You downloaded the lab onto your own device. You walked into the box and locked it from the inside. Stop. Look at your hand right now. The thumb scroll motion you did between sentences in this video. That motion was engineered. The dopamine spike when a notification arrived a few minutes ago. That was engineered. The urge you will feel in about 4 minutes to check your phone. That also was engineered. This is not your fault. You were not supposed to win this fight. The experiments ran for 70 years before you even held the device. You walked into a system that had already studied you for 3 generations. But you can see the machine now. You can feel the variable reward kicking in when the feed refreshes. You can notice the loss disguised as a win when the algorithm shows you something almost good. You can catch the moment the urge arrives, the moment before your hand moves. That moment is everything. That moment is where you live instead of the machine. They did not stop the experiments. They scaled them. The program never ended. You are inside it, but now you know. Mindwire, hidden mechanics decoded.